The signal, the twin moons of Zarkon 5 glowed faintly behind the Emperor's palace. Inside the cold metal walls, silence ruled, except for the soft whispers of two alien women hiding in a dark corner of the harem. Lyra pressed her fingers against the wall, feeling the hidden door's pulse. "It's still working," she said quietly. Zia, with her purple skin and glowing eyes, looked around nervously. "How much time do we have before the next guard shift?" 10 minutes, maybe less," Lyra replied. Both women were concubines of Emperor Varnock, the cruel ruler of the outer systems. No one escaped the harem. No one even tried. But tonight, they had no choice. If they stayed, they would be part of the Emperor's new experiment, and they didn't want to find out what that meant. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Zia held her breath. A guard's voice came through the wall. "Check every room. They are hiding somewhere." The footsteps passed. Lyra looked at her friend. "We have to do this now. We only get one chance." Zia nodded. Her hands trembled as she pulled out a small metal cube. "This is the signal device," she whispered. "I've tuned it to human frequencies. You sure it'll reach him?" "It has to." Lyra tapped on the cube. A faint blue light glowed, then a voice recording played in soft, broken English. "To any human in Sector 9, we are not enemies. We need help. We are running from the Emperor. Please respond. This is urgent." Zia looked at Lyra. "Do you think Reed Carter is real?" Lyra paused. "I think he is. I think he's the only human crazy enough to take on the Empire." They had heard stories, whispers from traders and slaves, about a human smuggler who rescued prisoners from across the galaxy. He had a fast ship, old Earth tech, and a bad attitude. But he never left anyone behind. That's who they were counting on now. Suddenly, a red alarm blared across the palace. "Escape in progress," the voice shouted in alien language. "Eddie." "No," Zia gasped. Lyra grabbed her hand. "Run!" They dashed into the corridor. The walls flashed red. Metal gates began to close, locking down the path. "We go through the servant tunnels," Lyra shouted. They jumped over a closing door and crawled into a vent. Behind them, guards shouted and weapons fired. One plasma shot hit Zaya's leg. She cried out in pain but kept crawling. Blood dripped behind her. Lyra turned back. "Don't. Stop, we're almost there." After what felt like forever, they reached the hidden hangar below the palace. One small escape pod sat there, dusty and half-broken but still alive. Zia collapsed beside it, breathing hard. "Will it fly?" Lyra checked the controls. "Enough to get us out of here. After that, we hope the human finds us." They dragged themselves inside the pod. Lyra started the engine. The hangar doors opened slowly. Outside, stars filled the sky. The pod shook as it rose. Alarms screamed louder now. From the palace tower, Emperor Varnock watched. His eyes narrowed. "Send the hunters," he growled. "I want them alive." In space, the pod jumped into light speed, just barely escaping the pull of the Emperor's gravity field. Inside the tiny cabin, Zia leaned back, bleeding and exhausted. Lyra sat beside her and stared at the cube in her hand. The signal had been sent, but they didn't know if anyone heard it. Then, suddenly, the cube blinked. A voice came through. Rough, confident human. "Message received. Name's Reed Carter. I'm tracking your signal. Don't worry, girls, I'm coming." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. Zia smiled weakly. "He's real," Lyra whispered. "Yes. But now we have to survive long enough for him to reach us." Outside, the pod, unknown ships began to follow their trail, silent shadows in space. The chase had begun. The escape begins. The stars stretched like threads as the small escape pod shot through hyperspace. Inside, the air was tense and heavy. Zia lay on the floor, pale and sweating. The burn on her leg had worsened, turning dark around the edges. Lyra kept her hand pressed against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding with scraps of cloth torn from her robes. The pod was old and had no medical support. Every bump, every noise made her flinch. She knew they were being followed. We won't last long in this tin can, she said softly. Zaya gave a weak smile. It's better than a golden cage. Lyra didn't smile back. Not if it kills us. A warning light blinked above the navigation panel. The ship was losing energy. Fuel cells were too low for another hyperspace jump. The pod began to slow down. Damn it, Lyra whispered. She tapped the controls, trying to reroute power, but the system was ancient. The pod dropped out of hyperspace near the edge of a cold, abandoned star system. Dead planets floated in the distance, and the nearest space station was hundreds of light minutes away. The signal cube blinked again. A voice crackled through. You're off course. I'm tracking your trail, but I see shadows behind you. You've got company. It was Reed Carter, the human. His calm voice made her heart race. Someone was out there. Someone real. Lyra picked up the cube and spoke into it. Reed, we're out of power. The pod won't make it much longer. Zia is injured. What should we do? A short pause. Then Reed replied, firm and clear. Do not. Stop. There's a gravity slingshot near the dead moon. Use it to gain speed. I'm 30 minutes out. Hold the line. Lyra nodded, even though he couldn't see her. She turned the pod manually, heading for the dead moon Reed mentioned. It looked lifeless and cold, but its gravity was strong. If she did it right, it would throw them far enough for Reed to reach them. If she miscalculated, they'd crash into it. Suddenly, an alert buzzed loud. Enemy ships detected. Lyra looked at the screen. 2 Imperial hunters, small but fast, had locked onto their position. She felt a chill run down her spine. They've found us. Zaya struggled to sit up. You go. I'll stay and distract them. Don't be stupid, Lyra snapped. We're leaving together. We didn't come this far to die alone. The pod began to shake as plasma shots flew past. One beam clipped the wing. The metal groaned and sparks flew inside the cabin. Then, in the middle of chaos, a shadow passed in front of them. A ship, large, dark, and unlike any Imperial design, dropped from hyperspace. Its engines roared and its weapons lit up like fire. Lyra's screen flashed a new ID. Incoming vessel, unknown. Earth origin, ID, Reed Carter. It was him. The human ship fired 2 torpedoes. Both hunters exploded into pieces before they could react. The blast rocked the pod hard, but it held. You girls okay in there? Reed's voice came through again, this time clearer, louder. Lyra laughed for the first time in days. Barely. We're losing control. All right, he said. Hold tight. I'm gonna dock manually. Don't touch anything. A few moments later, the pod shook once more, then stopped. Metal hissed, the door opened, and cold air rushed in. Bright lights blinded Lyra for a second. Then she saw him. A tall, scarred man in a worn-out space jacket stood in the doorway, a plasma rifle slung over his shoulder. His face looked tired, but his eyes were sharp and alert. This was Reed Carter, the human smuggler. Names later, he said. Let's get the hell out of here. He picked up Zaya like she weighed nothing and turned back toward his ship. Lyra followed, heart pounding. As they stepped into Reed's ship, the hatch closed behind them. The smuggler walked quickly, placing Zia on a medical bed. The room was small but filled with human tech, patched wires, blinking consoles, and the smell of oil and fire. Reed handed Lyra a water pack. Drink. You'll need it. What now? She asked, still shaking. He looked at her seriously. Now we run. The Empire's gonna come after us with everything they've got. You've just painted a target on my back. We didn't have anyone else, Lyra said quietly. Reed sighed and looked at Zaya, unconscious on the bed. Yeah, I can see that. He sat down at the control panel and pulled up a holographic map. All right, I know a guy, old friend, part of the Earth rebels. He owes me. We'll hide there for now. But if you're as important as I think you are, he looked at Lyra, then this isn't just a rescue, this is war. Outside, in deep space, another Imperial ship appeared, bigger than before. Silent, watching. The hunt was not over. The smuggler. The stars outside looked calm. But inside Reed Carter's ship, tension filled the air. Zia lay on the medical bed, her breathing shallow, her skin pale. The burn on her leg had turned a deep shade of blue, alien blood spreading, under the skin like cracks in ice. Lyra sat beside her, holding her hand, refusing to sleep. Reed stood at the cockpit, staring at the radar. The Imperial signal they had picked up earlier had disappeared. But he knew better. "They're cloaked," he muttered, watching, waiting. His ship, the Wraith, was a Class V smuggling vessel, once used by Earth's rogue military. It was fast, smart, and unpredictable, just like its owner. But Reed also knew its limits. If the Empire sent a war-class cruiser, they wouldn't survive a direct hit. He turned to Lyra. "She's stable for now. I gave her something to slow the infection. But we need real help. Human medicine can only do so much on alien biology." Lyra nodded, eyes full of fear and fire. "She's strong. She survived the Emperor. She'll survive this." Reed raised an eyebrow. "You both survived the Emperor. That makes you dangerous." Lyra looked at him. "We didn't escape to be safe. We escaped to be free." For a moment, Reed said nothing. Then he sat down and placed a small hologram cube on the table. It blinked to life, showing a map of star systems, coded paths, and red zones marked high risk. He pointed to one planet near the edge. "This is Ceros 8. It's a junk world, abandoned, dirty, and perfect for hiding. There's a man there, Doc Halver. Used to patch up Earth rebels during the Shadow Wars. If anyone can save Zia, it's him." Lyra leaned closer. "Can he be trusted?" "No," Reed said. "But I trust his hatred for the Empire more than his love for money." He set the course. As the Wraith jumped into hyperspace, Lyra leaned against the wall. Her body was tired, but her mind raced. She couldn't stop thinking about the Emperor's final words before they escaped. "You think you're just pretty things, but you are more. You are the key." What did he mean? What was inside them? Hours later, orbit of Ceros 8, the ship dropped out of hyperspace above a dusty gray planet. Lightning storms cracked in the distance. Reed guided the ship down carefully. They landed near a rusted spaceport filled with broken ships and wandering scavengers. It smelled of smoke, oil, and betrayal. "Stay close," Reed said. He looked at Lyra. "And don't talk to anyone, especially not with those eyes." Her eyes glowed faintly, a mark of her alien blood. They carried Zia through the scrapyard, avoiding curious stares. Reed led them into a hidden door beneath a pile of crushed shuttles. Inside was a long tunnel lit by flickering green lights. At the end stood a man with a robotic arm and a glass eye. "Reed Carter," he said, voice rough like sand. "Didn't think I'd see your ugly face again." "Miss me, Halver?" "No, but I owe you. Bring her in." The old doctor examined Zia silently for 10 minutes, then stood. "She's been tagged," he said. Lyra froze. "Tagged?" He pointed to the back of her neck. "Small implant. Bioorganic. Hidden in her spine. The Empire uses them to track, or worse, to change." "Can you remove it?" Reed asked. "Maybe. But if I mess up, it'll kill her." Lyra stood up. "Then I'll do it. Tell me what to do." Halver stared at her. "You're braver than you look, and more stupid. But all right." They worked for hours. Lyra held the tools. Halver guided her. Reed stood guard, checking the scanners every second. Outside, a storm began to rise, and in orbit, a cloaked Imperial drone sent a silent signal back to its master. Somewhere far away, inside a throne of bone and steel, Emperor Varnock watched the signal light up. "She has removed the tracker," said a voice beside him. Varnock smiled. "Good. Now she thinks she is free." He turned to his generals. "Send the hunter." Back on Ceros 8, Saya woke up, weak but alive. The implant sat in a jar on the table, a small thing, almost harmless looking, but filled with dark tech. "You saved me," she whispered. "No," Lyra said. "You saved yourself. I just helped." Reed entered the room. "Bad news," he said. "Empire knows where we are. A bounty's been placed, 500,000 credits. They'll send someone." "Who?" Lyra asked. He looked grim. "Not someone. Something. They call it the Hunter. Never seen, never stops. It doesn't bring you back. It brings you pieces." Everyone fell silent. Reed looked at them both. "You wanted freedom. Now you've got war." He turned on the engine. "Next stop, a place even the Empire fears." But the Hunter was already coming. The Hunter arrives. Wind howled across the metal junk fields of Ceros 8. Inside the Wraith, the lights flickered as Reed prepared the ship for takeoff. The reactor hummed louder than usual, a nervous sound. Even the old ship seemed to know what was coming. In the medbay, Zaya sat up slowly, the color returning to her face. The implant was gone, but she felt different. Her thoughts were faster. Her skin glowed slightly. Something inside her had changed, and she didn't know why. Lyra watched her with quiet worry. She could feel it too. Her own body was reacting, strangely, as if something dormant had awakened. She looked at Reed. "You said they'd send something. What did you mean? What is the Hunter?" Reed didn't look up from the control panel. "Not what? Who?" He pressed a button. A hologram appeared in the air. Blurry footage, shaky camera, panic in the voices. A tall figure moved through smoke and fire. Not fast, but unstoppable. Every bullet bounced off its armor. Every scream ended in silence. It carried no visible weapon, just a curved black blade and eyes like frozen suns. "This footage is from 5 years ago," Reed said. "A rebel outpost in the Rim. Gone in 8 minutes. No survivors." "Why?" Lyra asked. "Because they had someone the Empire wanted." He shut off the footage. "Like you." A cold silence filled the room. Zaya stood, still weak but defiant. "We're not going to run forever." Reed looked at her. "No, but we're not dying today either. We move. Now." 30 minutes later, low orbit. The Wraith lifted into the sky, leaving behind smoke trails and whispers. They didn't see. The cloaked ship rise silently behind them. No lights, no sound. Just a shadow moving through the black. Inside the enemy vessel, the Hunter stood still. It was more machine than man. Its skin was metal, black and ridged. Its face had no mouth, only a silver mask with 2 glowing dots. It didn't breathe. It didn't think. It only followed orders. It had one target: retrieve the alien concubines, eliminate all others. Tui. Wraith jumped into hyperspace. The Hunter followed without a word. Aboard the Wraith, later Reed paced the cockpit. "We can't outrun it forever, but maybe we can trap it." "Trap it?" Lyra asked. "There's a station in the asteroid belt of Kargon Prime," he explained. "Old Earth tech, before the fall. Still has defensive satellites, if we lead. It there, the system might do the rest." "That's not a plan," Zia said. "That's a gamble." Reed looked at her. "That's smuggling." Lyra nodded. "Let's do it." As they reached the outer edge of the asteroid field, the ship's sensors started to scream. Incoming object. No heat signature. No ID. No communications. "He's here," Reed said. "Everyone, buckle up." The Wraith swerved hard, dodging asteroids as large as cities. Behind them, the Hunter's ship cut through rock like paper. It wasn't flying. It was hunting. Inside, the Hunter stepped into a drop pod. With a quiet hiss, the pod launched. It didn't need a landing platform. It punched through the outer hull of the Wraith like a bullet. Alarms exploded. "He's on board," Reed shouted, grabbing his rifle. Lyra and Zia ran toward the engine. "Room. We'll seal the doors." Reed stood in the hallway, gun raised, heart pounding. He had fought pirates, warlords, and beasts from forgotten planets. But this was different. Then he saw it. The Hunter stepped into view. Tall, silent, unstoppable. It looked at Reed like a man might look at dust. Reed fired. Every shot bounced off. The hunter raised its hand. A pulse of energy hit Reed square in the chest. He flew backward, hit the wall, and blacked out. Engine room Lyra welded the door shut. Sparks flew. Zia, breathing hard, touched the metal wall and suddenly froze. "Lyra," she whispered. "I can feel him." "What?" "I don't know how, but I can feel his mind. Cold, empty, like a machine. But there's something deeper. Something ancient." Lyra looked at her. "Can you stop him?" Zia didn't answer. She walked to the center of the room, closed her eyes, and touched the floor. The ship's lights dimmed. A soft hum rose from the walls. Then, silence. From the hallway came heavy footsteps. The door shook. The hunter was there. Lyra raised a pipe, ready to fight, even if it meant dying. Then Zia opened her eyes. They glowed like stars. She reached out, and the metal of the ship bent around the door, not from tech, but from her. The door folded inward, like a flower closing. The hunter stepped back. Inside, Zia whispered something in an alien language. The lights exploded. The ship dropped out of hyperspace and spinning wildly. In that moment, something inside Zia awakened completely, a power the Emperor had hidden in her DNA. She collapsed. The hunter, standing in the hallway, looked confused for the first time in its existence. It turned, silently returned to its pod, and launched away. Later, Reed woke in the medbay, bruised but alive. "What happened?" he groaned. Lyra sat beside him. She stopped him. He looked at Zia, unconscious again, glowing, faintly. "How?" Lyra answered quietly. "I think the Emperor lied. We weren't just concubines, we were weapons designed to serve or destroy." Reed sat up, staring into space. "Then we better figure out what you are," he said. "Before the Empire does." Outside the window, stars drifted silently. But somewhere far away, the hunter was watching, and next time it wouldn't hesitate. Revelation's silence. Zia hadn't moved in hours. She lay on the medical bed inside the Wraith, her skin glowing faintly, her pulse steady but strange, slower than normal, deeper than human, like something ancient had taken hold of her. Lyra sat by her side, not moving, not speaking. Reed stood nearby, arms crossed, watching a data screen that pulsed with strange symbols, alien DNA patterns, strange energy readings from the ship's sensors, and something even he couldn't explain. "I've never seen anything like this," he said quietly. "It's not just energy, it's a signal. Something is waking up inside her." Lyra looked at him. "What if it's not just her?" Reed frowned. "What do you mean?" Lyra touched her own wrist. The skin shimmered slightly beneath her. "Fingers. Since we left the palace, I feel it too, like I can hear things, feel metal, power, systems. Like I'm connected." Reed leaned closer. "The Emperor wasn't just keeping you as trophies, was he?" "No," Lyra said softly. "We were part of something bigger, a project." Reed tapped his console. "I've been digging through Imperial records, black channels, stolen data. Rumors say the Emperor was trying to build the next phase of control, a generation of living weapons, alien DNA mixed with something older, something found in a forgotten part of the galaxy." Lyra stared at him, eyes wide. "Us?" "Yes." Reed nodded. "You and Zia. You're not just escapees. You're prototypes." Lyra stood slowly, cold filling her chest. "So that's why he wants us back." Reed turned the screen. "And that's why he'll never stop." The monitor showed something new now. An intercepted Imperial broadcast. "Subject Delta activated. Phase 1 complete. Hunter failed. Dispatching Omega unit. Earth interference detected. Begin invasion protocol simulation." Reed's eyes hardened. "They know about me, about my past. If they simulate an Earth invasion, even for testing, it means they're preparing for something bigger." Lyra asked, "What is the Omega unit?" Reed took a deep breath. "I don't know. But if the hunter was phase 1, I don't want to meet phase 2. A few hours later, deep space, en route to an old rebel station, the Wraith cruised silently through the void. Its new destination, Arc 7, a lost rebel research station once used during the human-imperial conflicts. Reed had fought near it once. Now it was abandoned, or so the Empire believed. Inside the ship, Zia began to stir. She gasped, sat up suddenly, and grabbed Lyra's hand. I saw something. Lyra leaned in. What did you see? Not a dream, a memory, but not mine. The Emperor, his lab. He was watching someone like me. She burned the room down just by breathing. Then she disappeared. Lyra asked, You think there are more like us? Zia nodded. I don't think I know. Reed joined them. Then we need answers. Arrival. Arc 7. Station Arc 7 floated in the shadows of a dying star. Its surface was cracked and burnt, covered in ancient battle scars. But its power core still blinked. Reed piloted the Wraith into its hidden docking bay. The lights inside flickered as the airlock hissed open. They stepped into the station, cold, silent, untouched for years. Dust floated in the air like ghosts. Stick together, Reed warned. No security, no cameras. That means someone didn't want this place found. They walked through dark corridors until they reached Lab Chamber 12. There, on the walls, were photos, not just of Zaya and Lyra, but of others. Aliens, humans, hybrids, subjects. Lyra stared at the screen. This is where we were created, a soft voice echoed from a corner speaker. Welcome back, subjects 9 and 10. Everyone froze. A faded hologram appeared. A woman in a lab coat, human, mid-40s, eyes tired. If you are seeing this, you've escaped the Emperor. That means the project has failed. Or evolved. You were not meant to serve. You were meant to balance, to protect the ancient energy, but he twisted everything. Each of you holds part of the key. You must find the others. And when you do, you must decide if humanity deserves to survive what comes next. The hologram blinked out. Silence. Reed looked at the girls. What energy? What key? Lyra touched a control panel. It lit up at her touch. Symbols danced. Old, alien, pulsing with life. Then the alarms exploded. Warning, long-range jump detected. Unregistered ship approaching. Code Omega Unit. Reed cursed. They found us that fast? No, Zaya said, standing tall. They followed the signal. This was a test, a trap, and now we bring them the truth. Reed grabbed his weapon. We need to leave. Now. But Lyra didn't move. Her hands were still on the glowing console. She's not running, Zaya said. She's unlocking it. The station began to shake. Lights turned red. Lyra, what are you doing? Reed shouted. Lyra's voice was calm, strong, different. I'm not just a weapon. I'm a gate. Outside in the stars, something massive emerged. Not a ship, but a rift. The Omega Unit stepped through, tall as a titan, powered by pure ancient force, and it had one mission: bring back the stolen keys, or destroy everything. The betrayal, the rift outside Arc 7 glowed like a wound in space. Reed Carter stared out the viewport, silent. The Omega Unit had arrived, not flying, not walking. It descended slowly, like gravity itself had welcomed it. It wasn't made of metal. It looked like something grown, part machine, part nightmare. Inside the station, alarms screamed. Lights flickered. Lyra stood frozen at the console. She had triggered the gate. She didn't know how, only that it had reacted to her touch. And now something impossible had come through. Reed shouted, "We need to go!" Zaya pulled Lyra away from the console. "You open the door, now we close it." Lyra's eyes glowed again like stars under ice. "We can't close it. Not yet. There's something else. Something inside the Omega Unit. A signal. A presence." Reed's grip tightened around his weapon. Forget the presence, that thing will burn this station to dust in seconds. But the Omega unit didn't fire. It waited. And then, it sent a transmission. A voice came through. Subject 10, return. You are incomplete. You cannot survive without rejoining the source. Lyra froze. Zaya whispered, it knows your number. Reed stared at her. What does that mean? Lyra stepped back, afraid. I think it wasn't just sent to catch us. It's calling me home. The lights dimmed, and that's when the betrayal began. Minutes earlier, in orbit another ship hovered, just out of sensor range, small, sleek with Earth markings long erased. Inside it, Talon Voss, ex-Earth Commando and Reed Carter's former partner, watched everything from a hacked stream. His face was scarred, half cybernetic. He chewed on a dry root stick and narrowed his eyes at the live feed. He saw the girls, saw the gate, saw the Omega unit. He smiled bitterly. They found it, he muttered. After all these years, they actually woke it up? A voice behind him spoke. So, will you collect your reward now? Talon didn't answer. He just loaded his rifle. I'll take the girl. The Empire gets what it wants. I get paid. Reed gets what he always deserved at nothing. Back on Arc 7, Reed led the girls toward the Wraith. The station was shaking harder now. The Omega unit hadn't moved, but its presence alone was ripping the structure apart. They reached the hangar. That's when the shots rang out. Reed spun and fell to the ground, blood on his shoulder. Lyra screamed. Zia ducked. Out of the smoke walked a man Reed hadn't seen in 7 years. Talon, Reed growled, voice filled with old fire. Hello, partner, Talon said, lowering the rifle. Still saving people who don't want to be saved? Reed stood slowly, pain in his eyes. Why? Talon pointed at Lyra. You don't get it, do you? She's not a girl. She's a map, a key. The Empire's not chasing her. It's trying to use her, like it used us. He looked at Lyra now. You want to survive? Come with me. I'll take you somewhere safe. The Empire doesn't need both of you, just the stronger one. Zia stepped forward. She's not going anywhere. Talon aimed his rifle at her. And you're not in charge. Reed, bleeding, still managed a weak smile. You never changed. Still choosing the easy path? Talon laughed. There's no easy path, Reed. Just the one where you don't die for people who won't remember your name. Then everything exploded. Outside the station, the Omega unit moved. Finally. It raised its arm and pointed toward Arc 7. A massive energy wave surged forward. Not a blast, a pulse, not meant to destroy, but to awaken. Inside the station, every console lit up. Every system came alive. And so did something else. Lyra dropped to her knees, screaming. Her body glowed bright, too bright. Her voice echoed across the station. Too much. It's inside me. All of it. Zaya held her, tears in her eyes. Reed tried to move, but collapsed again. Talon reached for Lyra, but then she stood, alone, and the air bent around her. Her voice was no longer hers. You betrayed us, all of you. But we are awake now, and we will not go back. Talon's gun melted in his hand. His metal implants began to burn. He fell, screaming. Lyra turned to Reed. You saved me. Now it's my turn. Then she vanished. In a burst of light. Gone. Somewhere. Else Lyra stood in a white void. The Omega unit Psi. A voice spoke from within it. You are the spark. We are the vessel. Join us, or become our enemy. Lyra answered, her voice calm and clear. I choose my own path. No more cages, no more control. The Omega unit stepped back. The gate. Behind it opened. Lyra didn't walk through it. She turned away. Back on Arc 7, Zia woke up beside Reed, who was barely breathing. Talon was gone, vanished or destroyed. No one knew. The gate outside collapsed. The Omega unit disappeared into nothingness. Then, Lyra reappeared. Changed. Calm. Powerful. She helped Reed up, and for the first time, she looked like a leader. "We're not just survivors anymore," she said. "We're the beginning of something new." But far away in the heart of the Empire, Emperor Varnock watched a dark screen. He smiled. "Let them run. The real test begins now." The last stand. The stars were quiet again. But peace never lasted long. The Wraith floated above the orbit of Terra 13, a hidden rebel moon deep inside the ruins of a forgotten system. It was the only safe place left, for now. Inside the ship, Lyra stood in silence. Her eyes no longer glowed. But something had changed forever. She had touched the gate, spoken to the Omega unit, survived what no one had before. She had become something more than alien, more than weapon. She was now a symbol of choice, of rebellion, of free will. Reed leaned against a console nearby. His wound had mostly healed, but his spirit was tired. He had seen war, he had lost people, but what he saw in Lyra was new. "You don't sleep anymore," he said quietly. Lyra shook her head. "I don't need to." Zaya entered, wearing combat gear stolen from an old Imperial base. She moved better now, stronger, faster. The part of her that the Empire had hidden was also waking up. She looked at them both. "They're coming. The scouts just confirmed it. The Emperor is sending the Imperial Ark." Reed stood straight. "I thought that thing was a myth." "It's not," Zaya said. "It's a moving city, a planet-sized fortress. Carries 10,000 soldiers, and orbital weapons. And it's headed here." Lyra didn't flinch. "Then we make our stand here." Reed raised an eyebrow. "Against that?" Lyra looked at him. "Not just us." She touched the signal cube, the same one they had used to call Reed all those days ago. This time she sent out a new message. "To anyone who hears this, Gwenno, we are the stolen, the broken, the ones they tried to erase, but we are not finished. If you ever wanted to fight back, come now. This is our last stand." 3 days later, Terra 13, the moon shook with the yaw. Thunder of ships landing. One by one, old vessels, rusted fighters, outlaw freighters, even stolen Imperial ships appeared above the horizon. From every edge of the galaxy, people came. Humans, hybrids, rebels, smugglers, former slaves, even ex-soldiers who had once served the Empire. They came not for glory. They came for revenge. In the command center, Reed watched the forces gather. "You really stirred the galaxy, didn't you?" Lyra smiled slightly. "The Emperor made a mistake. He thought fear would keep us divided. But sometimes, all people need is a reason to rise." Zia walked in, helmet under her arm. "Scouts, report the Imperial Ark is in orbit. It'll begin surface strikes in 2 hours." Reed nodded. "Then we make them bleed." Hours later, the sky burns. The Imperial Ark appeared like a shadow over the planet. Massive, silent, impossible. Its belly opened. Dropships poured out, like a swarm of steel insects. The battle had begun. Explosions rocked the valley as the first wave hit. Rebel fighters screamed through the sky. Ground forces took cover in bunkers. The air turned to fire and smoke. Reed led the front line, moving like a ghost, never in one place too long, shooting down enemies with calm precision. Zaya fought beside him, blades in both hands, her eyes shining. She moved like wind, fast, fluid, brutal. Lyra was nowhere on the field. She had gone to the ancient temple buried beneath the moon, the same place her kind was created. The source. There, she stood in front of a deep, glowing core, pure energy, older than the stars. It whispered to her. "One choice, one end. You are the key." She closed her eyes and stepped in. Above, the Emperor arrives. A smaller Imperial vessel landed just outside the battlefield. From it emerged Emperor Varnock. His skin was no longer flesh. It was armor now, gold and black, powered by the very same energy he had stolen from Lyra and Zaya's kind. His eyes were cold, like dying stars. He walked through the battlefield untouched. His soldiers moved aside. No one dared stop him. He reached the ruins of the temple and stepped inside. "Lyra," he said, his voice echoing, "come to me. You are mine." But Lyra was different now. She floated above the source, her body glowing like the stars, her voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere. "No," she said, "I was never yours. You built a cage, but I was never a pet." The Emperor raised his hand. A beam of power shot toward her. Lyra caught it and crushed it in her palm. "You think you're strong," Varnock snarled, "but you're alone." Lyra looked past him. "You're wrong." Behind Varnock, the temple doors exploded. Reed, Zaya, and 100 rebel fighters stormed in. A final battle began. The end game. Varnock fought like a god. His powers melted stone, crushed walls, tore machines apart. But Lyra stood against him. She burned with something greater: choice, freedom, purpose. Zia struck from behind, her blades slicing into his armor. Reed pulled the detonator from his chest rig. "Lyra, the core!" Lyra nodded. She turned and poured her energy into the ancient source. It awakened. The temple trembled. The sky split. The Emperor screamed, caught between power and light. Then, silence. Aftermath. The Imperial Ark fell from orbit. Without the Emperor's command, it drifted, lifeless, powerless. The rebels cheered. The war was over. In the valley, Reed helped Zaya to her feet. They looked at the crater where the temple had been. Smoke rose. Dust swirled. Lyra stood alone in the center. Changed. Alive. She walked to them. Calm, quiet. "What now?" Reed asked. Lyra looked up at the stars. "Now, we build something better." 1 month later, across the galaxy, the Emperor's symbols were torn down. New banners rose, not of nations or species, but of unity. The story of the 2 concubines who defied a god became legend. And Lyra? She never claimed a crown. She just smiled and said, "We escaped once, now we help others escape." 2. The stars had new guardians, not heroes, just survivors who refused to be broken.